Stop comparing yourself to anyone else. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And when we talk about I am enough, the definition of enough is only as much as is required. I don't know about you, Diane. Well, I do know about you. You and I are so much more than enough. And that is the new mantra for every woman listening. I am so much more than enough.
Hey, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, formerly from QVC-HSN, the Queen of Jeans, but now the host of my podcast, Too Young to Be Old. And today I'm going to ask you a question. Has your self-esteem kind of slid off the planet as you went into your 50s or 60s or 70s? Well, guess what? We've got Clarissa Burt, author of, and truly an international best-selling book, The Self Esteem Regime. Her battle cry is look good, feel good, be good. Not sure I can do that one. And do the greater good. And so, with no further ado, I want to introduce a woman who, my God, your resume is unbelievable. You've been a model at Wilhelmina. You've been an entrepreneur. You've got a media company. You've written a best-selling international book, also audio, called The Self Esteem Regime. Tell us how that book came about, and if we can ask you that key question, how old are you today? Because you've done so much.
How old am I
Oh,
today? How old was I yesterday? No, I am 64 years old. I say 64 years young. 64 years ago, I was born. Let's put it that way.
right.
And by the way, it's October, so I am 64 and a half, Diane.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And I am a sprightly 78. So
That's
tell me,
amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
if you don't
I
think I
should
think
look
it's
like you.
amazing.
I should look like you. I'll tell you why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because, first of all, I understood, that self-esteem was something that was nothing that I was taught for sure. And it started out with kind of my mom, and I brought something to the table today that I very rarely do, but I wanted to do this because it's important to me that you see. My mother was a beautiful woman, beautiful, beautiful woman, and is still a beautiful woman at 83. But all I ever heard was, don't take my picture. I look horrible in picture. Oh, don't take my picture. Don't take my picture. I look horrible in picture. Now, this is my mother's high school picture. Does that look like
Beautiful.
beautiful? Here's
Yeah.
my mother. Here's my mother when I was she and I was 5 years old. Here she is.
And gorgeous again.
Drop dead gorgeous. So
Yeah.
here I am, and my perception of my mother was completely different than her perception of self.
Wow.
My grandmother, all right, again, beautiful woman, right? Here's a woman that said, it was insistent on losing weight. How to lose weight? She didn't have to lose an ounce. Took 2 diet pills, choked on them, perforated her esophagus, and wound up
No.
6 weeks in the hospital. And now I'm 9, 10 years old looking at this and going, she's beautiful. She's everything. She's my grandmother. I adore her. What is it that she doesn't see that I see? So
Wow.
that's kind of how it started. Then it was, obviously the toxic relationship that I watched my mother go through, and how, horrible that was for, the children to go through, as we, had to deal with violence and alcoholism in the household, coming out of that kind of with a PTSD kind of
Yeah.
situation, as one does. So fast forward. High school, a little bit of college. I knew straight up, Diane, that I wanted to be in the city. I was in New Jersey, graduated high school there, and I was in the city by the time I was 20. And I was working down in the garment district when Nancy Reagan was in office. She was being dressed by a designer by the name of Adolfo out of Argentina. And Adolfo menswear was down in the
I
garment district.
remember. Yeah, I remember.
And Adolfo menswear was down in the garment district, and I became, at 19 years old, I was the administrative assistant to the executive vice president of Adolfo Menswear. And I stayed there for a year, and I learned the city and I learned the ropes. But while I was there, people were saying to me, you really could be a model. You really should be a model. And I had no self-esteem at all. I didn't think I could for love nor money, but I tried anyway, and it worked. So along came Wilhelmina. Next thing I knew, I was in Europe, where I spent the next 30 years of my life working as a model, but not only working, but really having one of those allow me to say, because this is why we're here. This is not about me loading myself, but really sending the message on to your listeners. Not only did I become the model I never thought I could, but I became one of the first supermodels in the world in the 80s. And what I mean by that is I was on, you name the runway, I was on it. From Valentino to Versace to Armani to Saint Laurent to Chanel, I was on those runways. If you were to say, okay, tell me the 250 magazine covers, everything from Vogue to Harper's Bazaar to Cosmopolitan, I was on the covers. So I came home with 250 covers. When you say modeling career, it was a true happy, happy career, and I had the time of my life. But again, as we all know, the one thing I do want everyone to remember is that we must reinvent as we go. You've just done it, Diane, yourself. You know what I'm talking about. So reinvent from model to actress. And I did that. I did about 18 different movies in Italy. One of them was called The Never Ending Story. Part two, I came home with, and I did that movie, and it was the only one that came to the United States because it was a Warner Brothers worldwide release. I was the mean queen. It didn't take a lot of acting ability, I just acted. I was just the mean queen, and it seemed to work. After the acting, I decided I wanted to produce, and that's what I did. So I produced Italian television where I was living at the time. So I was on-camera talent for many years, and then I started to produce television. When the celebrity status came along is when I had my products on Home Shopping Network and on QVC in Italy.
That is so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we crossed paths there, but never
Yes.
knew one
No.
another because I
No.
was on QVC
In
all
the
over
States. Yeah.
Europe. But the
Yeah. Oh,
point for me was
yeah.
I didn't even get in front of a camera, and I was totally camera shy. So you wanna talk
Mhm.
about self-esteem
Yep.
issues?
Yeah.
I felt I grew up in the time of the copper tone baby in
Yep.
Southern California. Tan, I was totally white skin and freckled.
Yeah.
Blonde, I had red hair. Um,
Mhm.
I had everything you didn't want
Wanna
and
have.
nothing you did want, and
Yeah.
I became so camera shy that even though I was always on the periphery of the rock and roll music industry
Mhm.
with my garments and dressing famous people, I never wanted my picture taken
Mhm.
because I thought, frankly, I was too ugly.
Yeah.
And when it came time to go on television, it was because I had no choice. I was
Yeah.
gonna go personally bankrupt. I was
Right.
in the middle of a lawsuit, couldn't use my name on a label. Only way you could get my name out there was have me come out on stage and say, "Hi, Diane." Couldn't use my last name. So
Wow.
I was
Wow.
forced to become, um, responsibly visible.
Right.
And it took many years for me to get comfortable with it. And then everything in my 70s
Mhm.
circled around breast cancer,
Mhm.
losing all my hair. I mean, I can't think of a worse visual.
Yeah.
And so, what do you say to the audience? First of all, the younger audience is always like, oh, I don't want to grow
Mhm.
old. Can I just stay
Yeah.
30 forever?
Mhm.
And the older audience is, well, I have no help. I have no guidelines. I
Mhm.
have no stars to follow. So
Yeah.
it's over with for me.
Yeah.
I'm the disposable woman. What do you say to both ends of the spectrum?
Number 1, the world is full of opportunity and
Yeah.
opportunities. They are there, and it is up to you to capture. So, be mindful, be aware, ear to the ground. The opportunities are constant. You may not even see some things or understand that they are opportunities for you. If they don't come your way, create them. Create that opportunity.
But
When you
what do
just
you and I have been in forms of visual industries for a great part of our lives. For me, television
Mhm.
and fashion
Mhm.
became all about personal appearances in department
Yeah.
stores,
Yeah.
photographs, then now video, now podcasts. But what do you say to women, including me?
Mhm.
You know, honestly, we have no icons. We have no iconic images. When my hair went white
Right.
and finally grew back
And it's
after breast
gorgeous.
cancer,
And it's gorgeous.
thank you. But you wanna know something? I experiment with it every day, and so does my hairdresser. Nobody knows about white hair. No,
Right.
and yet nobody knows how to work with it. Nobody knows.
Fabulous opportunity for you and what could possibly be next. And when you say that, what comes to mind for me is, and you were talking about how you lost hair. I lost a lot of hair to COVID, a lot of hair to COVID. So what
Oh,
I did, let me answer those questions because I've got a million things I want to say right now. It's like crazy. So I went onto the internet, and we didn't have the internet, Diane, you and I growing up. We had no computers, there was no internet, there was nowhere to go. There were bookstores. And if we had a little bit of gumption, we went under those bookstores or the libraries. We knew what a card catalog was, and we went and we
ah,
searched the information that we needed, did we not? Today, there are no real excuses, Diane, because all the information we need is right here in the comfort of our own home at our fingertips on any given day. So anyone that is looking for the opportunity, anyone that sees an opportunity can seize the opportunity and make it happen. You've just talked about hair loss and you've talked about this whole what did you just say? Nobody really understands gray hair. Well, massive opportunity right there. Massive opportunity. What I did when I lost hair to COVID is I went onto the internet and I found because I'm a big into essential oils, and I found an 8 oil recipe for hair growth. And I pulled it together, and I am telling you, I can't keep it on the home shelves because I'm always making something in the kitchen that's cosmetic. And I just sent 3 bottles to a friend yesterday. My mother has been living with it. I have lived, with it scalp on my scalp. I'm telling you, I can't keep it on my home shelves because everyone loves it so much. Now
now,
I will be taking that to market. There is what I'm talking about. That opportunity, something happened to me. I researched it. I had my peeps try it. My friends and family try it. They adored it. They want more. Same thing with my chapsticks. Easy enough to do, easy enough to make. This is what I'm saying to you is I saw a reinvention. I saw that opportunity, and I'm jumping on that now. So there are ways. And by the way, when you say, we had television, yeah, we did, and it was great. But we have all kinds of opportunities with social media and YouTube right now to be. There are people that are making millions of dollars off of YouTube. There's a gal that I follow on TikTok who's a makeup influencer. Diane, when I tell you this girl, and she's lovely, do not get me wrong, but she would not be what you would consider to be, if you look at her, to be a makeup influencer. She's about 5'2". She talks openly and freely about her weight and that it's an issue for her. She has just become a multimillionaire. In the last 3 years that I have followed her, she has built the empire, made millions of dollars, found a guy, married him, bought the house, has her own makeup line all over the United States. I mean, this is the power of what we have at our fingertips with social media and with these computers.
but I'm
So,
not talking about women being entrepreneurs. I'm
okay,
talking about the average woman, including me. You know what? I had one light
yeah,
bulb idea in my life, and it was
jeans.
I can't deal. No, it really was. I can't deal with this middle-aged body. That's like a meatball canapé on 2 toothpicks.
Mhm,
Nobody makes anything for me. I'm going to
mhm.
change all the measurements and make it for myself. And then I
Right,
realized millions of women would want that in America, and then millions of women would want it in Europe.
right.
But for the average woman who is not entrepreneurial, but
Mhm,
just says to herself, God, I'm going into my 60s, I'm going into my late 50s, my 70s. I'm lost. I am amazed
mhm.
that 20,000 of us turn 65 every day of the
Yes.
year, year
Yeah.
after year in America, and we don't have a strong imagery. We don't have a strong market, past the fact that if you're someone, and I'm not, who wants to take 1,000,000 prescription drugs,
Right,
that we've got for you,
right,
anticipating
right.
your illnesses. But for me, it's very interesting. You took the hair thing from the outside in with
Mhm.
oils. I
Yes.
searched out vitamins
Yeah, I did that too, but I
from
didn't
the
yeah,
inside out,
yeah,
and that has worked really well
really
for
well.
me. Yeah, so I do Nutrafol, I do something from,
Right.
the UK called Lima, Lyma, and
Uh-huh.
the point is very few of us
Yeah,
actually catch on to that.
right.
So my whole deal is always I'm looking at your self-esteem regime and I'm thinking over 50, we need those pillars of
Yeah.
wisdom for
Yeah.
self-esteem more than younger women. Although I think even as a younger woman, I knew that getting older was not going to be easy and I wanted
Mhm.
pathways to go down.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about look good, feel good, be good, do greater good. Talk
Yeah,
to us about
absolutely.
those
Well,
pillars.
first of all, we all know what look good is, right? We're looking in the mirror and we have that. We know when we look good, we've got a little bit more of a lilt in our step, and that's an important step for all of us. So, maintaining good skin, fabulous hydration, get that water into your body. Kind of limit alcohol as much as you possibly can because that's not good for your brain health either. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to teach. I'm just here to say
That's just
you
physical.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's physical. Keep yourselves, and supplementation, as you just said, I do it all the time. I can't even tell you the amount of supplements I have right now, and so that I take every day. So that's really important as well. There are some really fabulous teas that we should know about. I'm a matcha junkie, and that is green tea, so antioxidants and all the other lovely things that green teas bring along. So I would say if you're a coffee junkie and you can sort of switch over to teas. They're just much more there's more therapeutic value in tea certainly than in coffee. And I know it could be tough and it could be a tough switch, but try to do that as much as you can. Or drink more iced teas. I love the Arnold Palmer where it's iced tea, half lemon juice. Get the citrus into you as well, because that's really, really important as far as our health is concerned. Look good, we know, and again, that's also, our as you well know, proportion. Proportion is 98% of the game if you can get that right for your body. Diane's the one, the lady you need to be talking to about that, but proportion and color. The science of color is something that, so few women really know about, and there's all kinds of ways, when they put the color panels up in front of you and they get the right color for you. Some of us remember them as being summer, fall, winter, and spring, and whatever that may be, it's something that I really think is super important for, if you can dress in the colors that are most becoming to you and for you, I think it's just another little bit of lilt and a little bit more to your advantage should you, want to choose to do that. And I highly recommend that you do. The other thing is so that's look good, feel good, diet, exercise, wellness, making sure that you are, getting that exercise is so important, Diane. I can't stress enough
Oh,
how
yeah.
important it is.
Yeah.
It's everything. Right now they're talking more about weight bearing exercises as we age. I'm a power walker, so I love to get out, into nature, do the walk, power. And I say when I power walk, I have weights. I
You
have
know,
the
actually, when I came out of breast cancer, and I was one of those lucky women that, uh, for some reason, chemotherapy was not difficult for me, ever.
yeah, good,
Even the strongest chemotherapy. I
right,
was so fortunate, but when I came out of it, interestingly enough, I could not tolerate
yeah,
the after medicines like
yeah,
tamoxifen.
mm,
Then somebody told me, "Do you know that actually regular exercise will bring down the percentages of you regaining cancer again in your body
yeah,
the same as any of those drugs like tamoxifen."
yeah,
So I go by the theory that if you're supposed to do 150 minutes a week
mhm,
of exercise past
yeah,
the age of 50,
yes,
I'll I will try and do up to 300
right,
because I do have kind of a bum leg, so I had to customize everything,
okay,
but, I would
yeah,
say this to anybody listening. If power walking is no longer your thing, if jogging is no
mhm.
longer your thing, be creative.
Find something that is,
Customize
yes,
what you can do
Mhm.
and oxygenate. I happen to feel that keeping a sharp brain has
Yes,
to do
yes,
with constantly getting oxygen
yes.
throughout your
True.
body, and that is exercise. Now,
Yeah.
what about the foundation, the pillar, be good?
All right, I'm gonna finish
What is being good?
real quick, and something's let me back one step real quick, and that is get the toxins out of your cosmetics. Get the
Ooh,
toxin out of your cosmetics. There are apps out there. The EWG has a website. There are different apps that you can look up, non-toxic. When you go to the store, you can scan that product, Diane, and it will give you a readout of what's in it and how toxic it is. I am asking you, I am begging you all. By the time a woman leaves the house in the morning, Diane, she has used at least, on an average, 26 cosmetics that are rife with chemicals that are not
whoa.
good. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, do the research. I have, and it's alarming. Diane Feinstein was very big, by the way, on the lobby for getting cosmetic toxin out of cosmetics. I
Now,
don't know. I don't know where the lobby is right now on all of that, but what I do know is there are non-toxic cosmetics. You can make them at home. You can get books on Amazon. You're gonna go, what do you mean make my? I've made my lipsticks. I made my chapsticks. You can make your own. You can make your own creams, oil. You can make all of this stuff at home, which is so much more beneficial to your health. And do you know why we have such a high incidence of breast cancer in this country? Do you know how much heavy lead in, i.e., aluminum, we have in our deodorants? Do you,
or the fact that we don't ever think about it, but the
mm-hmm.
amount of estrogen
Yes.
pumped into cattle
Yes.
and chickens and
Mm-hmm.
turkeys,
Yes.
and you
I'm not a
are
meat eater.
flooding
I
your
personally am not a
system.
meat eater. Right. I'm
Well,
not a meat
I
eater for
don't,
that.
you know what? I was the original carnivore, but
Mhm.
after going through breast cancer, and
Yeah.
I think one thing that was fantastic about
Yeah.
the Dubin Center, and it is Cancer Awareness Month,
Right.
and they had the 10 commandments of not getting cancer to begin with or staving it from a return,
Right.
and it was definitely red meat. So twice a
Exactly.
week, I try to do a vegan day. So 2 vegan days a week. And
Right.
you know what? I'm the lousiest cook on earth, but I just go for flavors I might
Yeah.
like.
Yep.
And it is definitely, I can feel it easier on my body. But also, why do you think I have white hair? The thought of putting those dyes with
Yeah.
heavy duty formaldehyde
Yes.
on my scalp
Mhm.
again after
Yeah.
what I went through with all the chemicals pumped into
Right.
my
Right.
body,
Right.
I couldn't. I
Good, good,
couldn't.
good.
So we have to have that awareness of, as
Yes.
females, what we're doing to ourselves. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, and I just say this as an aside, because of course diet is a big part of aging successfully.
Mhm.
So somebody was saying to me the other day, "Oh, I made chili. He's a really good cook." And he said, "But," I said, "but it doesn't look like vegan chili." He said, "Oh yeah, I put Impossible Burger into it." And I said, somebody
What?
said to me, if you read the label of what you're eating and the paragraph in the smallest print is that long
Yeah, yeah.
with preservatives
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. No, no,
chemicals
no.
and dyes, you're better off just using red meat than you are using a
Yeah.
substitute. So in America, I feel like, and I never thought about it with makeup,
Yeah, oh,
but
yeah.
in America, we're always in for the quick fix,
Mhm.
and it's more like better to look good than
Yes.
to feel good,
Yeah.
and then
So
there's where you wind up.
I am a huge proponent of non-toxic cosmetics as much as humanly possible, and it's a lot more possible than you think
Yeah,
to
I
be
know,
looking really good and get rid of all that stuff on our bodies.
I
Because
do know
again,
too.
everything by osmosis comes through the skin being the largest organ in the body. Everything you put, I mean, it just it sucks right in
Two of
and
my
there you are.
best friends
Yeah.
passed away from melanoma,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking to myself now that the toxic cosmetics you put
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
my face, my
Yeah.
neck, even
Yeah.
my chest sometimes,
Yeah.
tops of my hands, and then going out in the sun.
Mhm.
Whoa, baby, that is not a good
For
formula.
example, it comes to mind right now, just as far as, like, even a powder is concerned. If you were to take Hershey's cocoa powder and put some arrowroot into it and mix it together, it becomes this, like, really, sun-kissed and use that instead of some of the other things that could be toxic on your
I
body. I mean, I
stopped
could be here all
using
day.
self tanners
Yeah.
because
Oh!
honestly, my facial skin
Ooh.
started totally rebelling
Oh,
against it. I had to go to a dermatologist, get some
yeah.
weird kind of cream.
Yeah.
So we never think about any of that. But when I go
Mhm.
back to all your pillars, talk to me about the final pillar of the
Mhm.
self-esteem regime, which is doing the
Yeah.
greater good, which
Yeah, it
I
is, really
think
is.
honestly you feel so much better
Yeah.
about yourself when you
Yeah.
do something good for other
Yes.
in
So
my case, other women. Let's talk about that for a
So
minute.
it's a win-win, isn't it? It really is. It's I feel good, you made somebody else feel good, win-win. It's really and a lot of people think it's like this broad stroke thing that you've gotta do. You gotta, you volunteer, pay it forward, paying it back, all of that, tithing, whatever you're into. And so, a lot of people think, "Oh, I just don't have the money right now, things are a little tight," or whatever that may it doesn't have to. It could be holding the elevator door open for someone as they're running to get the door, right? Or helping a woman down the stairs with a baby carriage. It could be just a compliment. It could be a compliment. "Oh, I love that top. You look so good." I'm never gonna see that woman in the supermarket ever again in my life. But I cannot tell you how many women in the supermarket I've told, "I love your top," or
Yeah.
silly, silly things, you know what I'm saying? Just the small acts of kindness and can go such a long way. Look, you don't know what we're all going through it, Diane. We're all going through it. You haven't walked a mile in someone else's shoes. You don't know what they're going through. Be kind. If they're trying, if they're trying to eke in, let them in for God's sake and let them in. Let it go. Do it's as frustrating as I know it is sometimes to you want to go off. Just let it go and let them in. So these are the small. What can I do today? Should be what can I do today and make a difference in someone else's life? I my mantra is I want to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. And
Oh
that
yeah.
we never want to be comparing ourselves to others. Number one, we want to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. And that's something I think that your listeners can really take something away from as well. Not only do they need to be taking a look at how they can be a healthier them, not only physically, but mentally as well, is really, really important. We've spoken upon that. But as far as getting, feeling good about ourselves, which goes back into feeling good mentally, as I think, is just doing something good for someone else, just being kind, being a good friend, being loyal is another thing.
When I created my brand, first of all, I did something good for myself, which was I made a jean for a middle-aged body. And then my entire ethos of my brand when I took it public was making women have a higher sense of
Yeah,
self-esteem about aging,
yeah,
feeling better
hmm,
about having an imperfect body,
hmm,
not feeling shamed or invisible
yeah,
or disposable or
right,
worthless,
yeah,
which is many of the categories,
yeah,
many of the slots that we are put into
yeah,
as we age. And it's what makes younger women so wary about
hmm,
growing older as a
hmm,
female, because let's
hmm,
face it, we've got a tougher road than men.
yeah.
But
I think the one thing
I am,
also, sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think the one thing that really is important to understand is just because the kids are out of the house, it doesn't mean they need you any less. That's lesson number 1, because a lot of people I think struggle with, I have no purpose now, I have no you yeah, you do, you have a
Oh,
purpose.
empty
It doesn't
nester.
mean yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean they need you less. Your grandchildren you're gonna be leaving a legacy behind for them as well. You still have so much work to do when it comes to family, and that's great, but this is a time for you. This is the time you probably didn't have on the, the front end. All of this time is now yours. This is a glorious time to be finding out more about yourself, to be reading, to be traveling, to be learning, to be taking courses, to be taking classes, to get into yoga should that be what you love to do. There are so many other women that are in this same situation that would just love to get together and kibitz and have a glass of wine and a dinner and a lunch and or like even like there's all kinds of learning tourism now where you can just go and learn about other cultures or learn another language. Italy is full. I lived there for 30 years, full of, take your group in and have a whole lovely,
Yeah,
kitchen, learn, how to
I
cook
love
Italian
that.
for a week, all of that. This is a time for fun. It's the time for friends. Yeah, can
That's
there be guys too? Yes, there can be men as well. We know at this age it's a little bit different than it used to be, and that's not a bad thing. So all of those things, if you're on the dating apps, great, go for it, love it. But bring a complete you, bring a well-rounded you. In other words, that's why I say it's our sacred duty that we all continue on on our personal development, on our
but I do
self-improvement.
say that also, if you're somebody who's childless, like
Mhm.
me, and that was
Mhm.
my
Me
choice,
too. Me too.
um, I questioned myself, what if I am going to change careers and try and get a thrill again, try and have my whole inner being refurbished again? What do I bring to the table? And I started thinking, well, if I'm not going to do fashion anymore, how about communication?
Mhm.
That led to somebody inviting me to co-host a podcast. I
Yep.
found out I loved it.
Mhm.
Then I decided to really study it, look at all the female anchors on the top TV
Yep.
news shows, understand how to nuance. And now I'm off on an incredible new adventure at 78 years old, starting a new business,
Mhm.
watching it grow and grow. The satisfaction level is enormous.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you
That's awesome.
something, and
Mm.
this is gonna be the final question and the
Mm.
final thought, because you did something at the age of 52 that
Mhm.
to me was so ballsy. I mean, I wouldn't have even thought of doing this at this age. So you're in Italy and you're
Yeah.
invited on Celebrity Survivor, which is in Nicaragua.
Mhm.
And pardon me for getting it mixed up with
Yeah.
Naked and Afraid, because the first question I asked you was, "You weren't wearing any clothing at 52?" And you said, "No, I'm wearing clothing."
Yeah, we were close.
Now, you aced out
Yeah, I won.
all the younger survivors. You won at the age of 52.
Yeah.
Final question, quite frankly, how did you do it? And when you did it, how did it make you feel?
Well, I think that, the first thing that we need to understand is when they asked me, I said no. And I said no for about 4 or 5 times because I just did. Well, finally, I said, look, all right, okay, I'll do this. And I did it because it was a challenge to myself as well. Remember, it's really a challenge straight up, but it's a challenge with yourself as well. And when you go back a second, we talk about, motherhood and empty nesting. I personally, I've never had children. So I never was biological mother, but I was mother to many. And so, that, because I'm a caretaker and I love helping people, and so I also have been, I now call myself, the anti-aging. Um, and so not anti-aging, anti-aging, it's different. And so even on the island, all the kids were calling me Aunt Clarissa, Aunt Clarissa, Aunt Clarissa, because I was there for everybody and I listened to everybody's rant and I held them when they cried and I gave them a little pat on the tushy and off you go. I was that stable, strong, pillar of a person, of a mother figure that everyone was, really desperately needed in that kind of situation. And a lot of people still do. Diane, I've taken in different girls over the years into my home that were in need of help. And so the idea of my doing the island, not only was it a challenge for myself, and I can honestly say it was very challenging, but a blast at the same time. But it was also the idea that, I was looked at through like, I'm trying to find the strength for myself to get through it, but I was the strength and the pillar for all of the other,
What
players.
is it so incredible to me is you had girls that were in their late 20s,
Yeah.
you had women in their 30s and their
Yes.
40s, and
Yes.
guys too.
Yep.
And you at 52, in sort of this most improbable way, became the celebrity survivor in one. And that's what makes you the perfect person to write the self-esteem regime.
Yeah.
Because, boy, if I won that, I would have so much pride
It
in
was lots of
myself.
fun.
And actually, I will say that even for me, everything for me happened later in life. My light bulb moment in fashion came at 60. My reinvention of myself came at 77. All improbable, all doable, all highly satisfying, and all a huge self esteem
Yeah.
boost.
Yeah.
And you know what, audience? It can happen for you too. I want to thank you so much. I could talk to you forever, but
Thank you.
here we are.
Let me
How
leave
much
everybody with one
fun.
thing. Everybody thinks,
Sure.
everybody thinks that the grass is greener on the other side. We're always comparing, right?
Yeah.
Let me leave you these two things. The grass is always greener where you water it. And
So
is
true.
it and is it really grass or is it astroturf? So is it real or is it fake? Is it your perception? Be very careful with that as we move forward. That's really, really important. Stop comparing yourself to anyone else. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And when we talk about I am enough, the definition of enough is only as much as is required. I don't know about you, Diane. Well, I do know about you. You and I are so much more than enough. And that is the new mantra for every woman listening. I am so much more than enough.
I love that. I'm writing it down the minute we're off air. I thank you so much,
Thank
Clarissa.
you,
Please,
Diane.
that fabulous, fabulous
Thank you.
podcast, and let's stay in touch.
Oh, we
For
will.
sure.
Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.